Now, I'm all for grabbing your torch and pitchforks when it comes to talking about Duel Links. But when I'm not complaining, actually, I guess that's all I really do. But Konami does hit the occasional ace in the hole with this game, and box chips are certainly that. There's an older video on my channel where I say a lot of dumb things called the card trader problem, but I did say a few really smart things in that video too. And one of those was the increasing value imbalance between old boxes and new boxes. But yet they cost the same, and that something needed to be done about it. And here we are, Konami's solution to that exact imbalance. Really, it's the best move I think I've ever seen them make. And I figured it'd make a great series that could be continually expanded as the box chips card pool continues to expand as well. So here are the best cards to get with box chips. But before that, a word from this video's sponsor, and that's not a joke this time because Arcane Fortress is here. Now this is mostly for my TCG viewers or any of you that are like me and still collect some cards despite not playing the paper card game anymore. Arcane Fortress makes some of the highest quality deck boxes that you can get. They're as sleek as they come, and the stitch material is exactly what you want, on top of the microfiber inside. They come in 6 different designs, but you know your boy had to go with Decaying Swamp, giving me some serious Ghost Eagle vibes here. But it was hard to choose because all of the interior designs were amazing. So now check this is my favorite part. A magnetic add-on box for dice, coins, or whatever accessories you need, and it's made from the same great material. Alright, now listen to this. Bop, that's quality, and the magnet keeps it shut when you need it to. The box can hold over 100 double sleeve cards and comes with these thick dividers that share the same design as the inside. And the whole aesthetic going on here is exactly what I'm talking about, and it keeps your cards from moving or getting damaged with that seal too. Really, these are phenomenal deck boxes. The link to their website is on screen but will also be in the description and pinned comment, and use the coupon code GHOSTEAGLE to get yourself a discount on this. They're well worth it if you collect the cards. Alright, now, box chips. I'm gonna make this pretty simple. If you don't have 3 copies of Cosmic Cyclone, then it's what you should be getting with your box chips first. Pay $1,000 to banish a spell or trap will never not be good or useful. It was way back then, it is now, it will be next year and the year after that. We all hate these pesky traps coming on in to ruin our Fire Fist combos on sight, and Cosmic Cyclone is one of the few generic removal options we have, and is arguably the best one depending on the meta. Sometimes it's worse than MST because there's no reason to Zane Truesdale yourself. Other times, the meta back row likes to come alive in the grave. As disrespectful as it is, or maybe destruction protection is on the rise. If something gets hit by Cosmic, it's never coming back. And that 1000 life point cost can also proc skills and enable the unalive yourself decks. All bundled in a quick play, now essentially free to play card. On the opposite end of that spectrum, if you like messing up people's Fire Fist combos, then Floodgate Trap Hole is the weapon for you. The demise of this trap has been greatly overstated. It can be devastating as all hell despite the ridiculous competition it increasingly faces with its limit 3. To me, the card just doesn't seem to get any worse. A permanent flip down can obliterate most combos if timed correctly, and leaves your opponent unable to use that card or cards. Yeah, rest in peace to anyone that pendulum summons against this. For anything outside of a fusion or tribute summon, which how many decks do that again? Well, it can't be used on link monsters. Well, I mean, yeah, but like, good luck summoning a link when the materials keep falling down crevices in the earth to kick it with pre-cool Brennan Fraser. I don't care, this card is still really good, and the most affordable alternative to IDP, Crackdown, Compulse, all that shit. In my opinion, the second best card to get from box chips. I've expressed my reservations in the past about Homegirl and the forbidden artwork stealing god shit, and like, look, I got nothing to do with all that drama, but stealing a man's chocolate milk vessel is a line you don't cross, and Forbidden Chalice draws a line for your opponent. It just says, Nah. Negating a monster effect on a quick play provides disruption in the same vein as Floodgate. Granted, they could still use it for stuff, but oftentimes against many combos, a well-timed monster negate can disrupt your opponent's whole style, if not just win the game. And that 400 attack boost offers some slight versatility to the card too. I mean, hey, maybe that's all you need for lethal, and then you can force feed the chocolate milk on your own monster. That may be a super rare, but is still up there in the cards you should get first from box chips. And like the previous two, it's hypothetically splashable in almost anything. Now, I may be biased because I've had my Prisma copy for so long now, but Paleozoic Canadia is one of the cards that has made Duel Links, man. This is the homie. A flip down that isn't permanent, but still provides the same level of disruption as Floodgate. It just doesn't clog your opponent for more than one turn. It's obviously slower and less versatile than Book of Moon, and not as damning as Floodgate. But my man is one of the cards you'd much rather hit with Cosmic Cyclone than MST. Because Canadia returns from the dead when another trap is activated to become an immune to monster effect Resident Evil fodder villain, giving the card amazing dual purpose of being disruption that can later protect your life points or be a material for something. And funny enough, he's arguably slightly better than Dynamiscus since he doesn't have a cost, and once again is essentially free to play. Like, dude, I love this card. Get yourself a Canadia. Needle Sealing used to be fairly niche because its activation requirements were too specific and somewhat rare. These days, its activation requirements are basically always in play, making it a dark hole trap card for face-up monsters. It's a very strong board wipe that could potentially trade itself for 4 of your opponent's monsters. Now, of course, it destroys your own shit too, which makes it more niche than any other card I've talked about so far, on top of its more specific activation requirements. And that's why it predominantly sees play in decks that can circumvent its downside, like Salamangreat with Balinks, Trickstar with Festival, Burning Abyss with Fiendish Rhino Warrior, etc. And also, it's just not as good as Dark Hole, the faster version of it with no required amount of monsters on the field and also destroys face down monsters. With that being said, if you have multiple copies of the cards listed already, the Needle Sealing is never a bad choice with your box chips. And my OG subscribers know at a certain point, Treacherous Trap Hole was my least favorite card in the game, back when it was limited to 2 and was far and away the best trap in the game. I really wanted this card banned, and I stand by that viewpoint for the time. My biggest argument against it wasn't just how insanely strong it was. I mean, that was like, a big part of it, but also that the requirements for the card's activation of having no traps in your grave made every other trap card in the game at the time worse, because decks would rather run 2 Tretch instead of running any other trap card. It just existing made a lot of other trap cards obsolete, and by extension of that made the game less diverse. This was of course fixed over time with natural power creep, its limit 1 status, and IDP taking the spot of the most overpowered blowout trap in the game. But do not get it twisted, Tretch is not underpowered at all. Destroying 2 monsters is still very strong. However, despite it being an objectively better card than Needle Sealing and Forbidden Chalice and all that, being limited to 1 these days is a big deal, as there are dozens of really strong preferable cards that it needs to compete with. And also, there are many other strong traps that you would rather run over Tretch. And again, with Tretch's activation requirement, you wouldn't want to run them together. So of course, a one of to get with box chips, but the point that I'm making is everyone should have 1 copy of Tretch. And if your deck doesn't need a limit 1 or many other traps, then Tretch can still be a 1 card winning machine. Just ask your boy as I cogged with it this month. Speaking of blowout traps that are insanely strong when their requirements are met, Drowning Mirror Force might still be the most devastating sight in the battle phase. It's balanced by its inherent slowness. It has such a small and specific activation window that it's likely gonna eat a space storm or a fried chicken before it ever activates. But when it does, you probably just won the game. Shuffling monsters back to the deck is one of the best ways to remove monsters. It doesn't target, it gets rid of almost almost everything except for like 3 cards in the game. Leo Dancer, yeah, it's gone. Dingursu, yeah, it's gone. Kluger, yeah, it's gone, and he doesn't float. I recommend having at least a copy of Drowning Mirror Force, even though it's harder to run than any other card I've talked about so far. Again, because of its small activation window and vulnerability. But damn, does it win games. And lastly, we're talking about another trap. I don't know what to say, man. Konami wasn't afraid to add great traps in the early days. And even though Divine Wrath is the worst of the bunch, it's still a great card. For the same reason as Chalice, negating a monster effect at the right time can win you the game. But Wrath has an additional upside and downside to it. The upside, it's a counter trap, and one of the only good ones in the game for that matter. And what that means is that it can't be responded to, except by another counter trap, which again are rare and not very good. So your opponent could not chain Forbidden Lance to Wrath to save their effect like they could with Chalice, for example. Now the downside, yeah, it's that discard cost, man. It just sucks for most decks. Like, yeah, a lot of decks like having cards in the graveyard, but to assure that you have the correct discard fodder at the time of Wrath's activation when you need it is a little too clunky to consistently make use of. And basically every deck in the game hates losing card advantage. However, it is worth it plenty of the time. It's pretty much always live because monster effects run the whole game and still sees play to this day. So that's gonna do it for this video. Like I said, this might be an ongoing series for me to do as the pool of cards that you can get with box chips will continuously be updated. But even then, there's enough good cards to make a part 2 and part 3 of this series already. And I know this video is probably going over cards you're all already familiar with, but hey, you know, we had to start somewhere and get the best of the bunch out of the way. So I thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in my next video.